Well, good evening. I'm Dana Plunkett, Director of Counseling at Needham High School. And joining me this evening on the panel is Ryan Madden, the Athletic Director at Needham High School. And we also have Kim Pinney from One-on-One Consulting, Jim Reddish from Stonehill College, Adam Gabart from Framingham State, Julie Ryan from Babson, and Vaughn Williams from Bentley. We really enjoyed pulling this panel together to offer perspective on the post-secondary process for our recruited athletes. And we hope that you will find this to be an informative evening. Needham, I don't think, has done this evening, and we want to appreciate that it's the post-secondary process is already sort of a complicated process. And for our college athletes, or our hopeful college athletes, it adds another layer of complexity. And hopefully you'll walk away this evening understanding kind of the nuances about sort of what are the tasks that students need to do in order to put this on sort of their post-secondary plans, and hear a little bit about sort of what students and families can do, but also from the other side of the field or the court from our coaches, and how from their perspective they look at building their teams and this process as well. So again, thank you panelists for being with us. We're first going to have some remarks by Kim Pinney to understand kind of the family student end of the world. And then we're going to shift it over and have our coaches speak a little bit about sort of what do they look for, how do they handle their end of the process. And at the end, we'll do a Q&A. So if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll address them at the end. But mostly we want to hear from our panelists to help better educate all of us on sort of this process. So Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you give us a start on kind of from the family, student, parent perspective. What should they be thinking of as they're considering whether or not they're going to play college athletics?
Okay, great. Thanks for having me here tonight, Dana and Ryan. I appreciate it. And also my fellow co-presenters here. It's going to be a great night. I mean, we just had a little conversation right before we started, and we're all on the same page in the message that we want to deliver to you. And my role tonight is going to be more about what I do as a college consultant and a former guidance counselor, like Ms. Plunkett is, about helping families through this process with the specialty of working with the student athletes. So I'm going to fly through my slides because I think what we really want to hear is from the college coaches themselves, but I think just to get a base of what we're talking about, I'm going to share a presentation real quickly. Okay, so I'm going to fly through these, but one-on-one college consulting's proven approach to college admissions. This is more of a philosophy that will prepare you to get direct feedback from college coaches, and how great is it that they're on our panel today. So we have an agenda. I'm going to fly through it, an introduction, the approach, mistakes to avoid, fundamentals of fit, a roadmap that I'm going to show you that we're going to go through quickly, just so you have an idea of, the density of this process, and how to turn your athletic recruiting process inside out. We'll spend a little bit more time on that. That's really why we're here, to hear what that's all about. And then the 5 stages of mindset that every student athlete needs to experience and allow yourself to experience. We'll talk about that. All right. So just a little bit about me real quickly. I started one-on-one college consulting almost 20 years ago now. I can't believe it. I'm getting so old. I played basketball many years ago at Tufts University, and I got my guidance counseling degree, my master's in education at Salem State. Licensed high school guidance counselor for many years before starting one-on-one. I was a coach for many, many years at Reading High School. Won a Division II state championship back in 2012. I feel like I'm getting ancient here, but over the years, over 30 years of guiding high school student athletes and families through this process. So hopefully you get some nuggets of gold here that you feel you can take away and help you with your process. I live locally in Wakefield, and I have 2 sons. One is a Division III lacrosse player who's already graduated, and one is currently a Division I baseball player. So I might use them as examples. So as we go, my team we get 10 professionals trained in what we do. We're independent educational consultants. The reason for this slide, a lot of people here, we work with athletes. We're not an athletic recruiting agency. We understand the process, but we come at it a whole different angle. So we have career coaches on staff, athletic recruiting strategists, and also college app specialists. So anyhow, we offer a lot of different services, but tonight I'm going to share with you the secret sauce, really, about how I talk nationally about this process and why we think it's so important. So the mission is we work with both students and student athletes. We love working with the student athlete. Everyone on our staff pretty much is a former student athlete themselves. We empower and guide student athletes in simplifying a very complex process, right? So everyone hears about the admissions process, and then you think about, oh, wow, student athlete, they have much more to do. And that is true, but there is a process and a way to attack this that's systematic, that's not so overwhelming, okay? Coach K, the coach at Duke forever, is one of my idols. He always used to say, don't teach an offense, teach offense. For many years when I was coaching, I didn't get it. I was like, what does that mean? Don't teach an offense, teach offense. And I figured it out. And before, I applied those principles to my coaching career, I didn't understand what he meant. Now I do. And so I've taken that principle. Basically, what he means is teach your players the fundamentals so well that they can read and react. They can play on their own. And for example, know that when someone is, overguarding them, they're going to cut back door. That is not a play, or it is, it's offense, so teach your students to empower them fundamentally so well that they know what to do. And that is basically what we've done with this process and kind of, made it that same concept. It's not a linear process by any means. There's many, many moving parts that affect one another. The expertise that we have, that we created, it's this one-on-one roadmap for our students that we work with, put the power in your hands. Student athletes talking to you. You are athletes, you're competitors. This is something similar. You have to put extra time in the gym to be good. It's the same exact principles for this process as well. You can't just show up and have it happen. You have to make it happen. We help you explore all your options and make an informed decision. There's a lot of moving pieces, okay? Expectations of people that work with us. We coach you up. It's an intentional, efficient, proactive, daring process. You need to be vulnerable. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be tough-minded, mentally tough to get it. We try to alleviate anxiety and uncertainty, because every time when it's out of your control, then that's when the anxiety levels go up. This whole process, a lot of it is out of your control, but we kind of help you, gain the perspective of what it is that you can control and what it is that you have to let go. And do the best you can to position yourself to be the most successful. You need a growth mindset to be good in anything. Growth mindset always helps, right? You're going to get bumps in the road, and you have to be ready and willing to adjust and focus on the controllables again. We save families time and money, on one of life's most important decisions. This is a big deal. It's not a 4-year decision. It's a 40-year decision. You're going to make lifelong friends. You want to get ahead of this process and pick the school that is best for you. And the sports piece, as you'll see, is very important, but it shouldn't be the most important. And we'll talk about that. Peace of mind to enjoy the journey together. A lot of families that we work with, like, this was great because, my student athlete is so busy playing and trying to get the best grades that they can and playing, going to camps and all the good things that you have to do to get in front of college coaches, that this whole process really is, you need a lot of time devoted to it. So you do need support. You can do it on your own. I'm not saying you need extra support, but you have to make your own support team. And we're going to talk about that. Distinct approach. We bridge the gap between academics and athletics the best we can, so there are a lot of people out there. This is a splintered approach. You're in it probably, and you're probably like, how do I piece this together? I'm getting information from my club coach. I'm getting information from my guidance counselor. I'm getting information from my aunt, and all of them could have good information, but you have to put it all together and synthesize it, right? So what we do is teach you to use your sport as leverage to get to the best fit you can, and use it for your chance of acceptance. I'm not ashamed to say, but years ago, I was looking at Harvard, and I think, honestly, Maury Healy took my spot. Kathy Delaney Smith was like, Kim, you're good, but you're not good enough. And I'm telling you that because I care enough about you, and you would never play. I was like, can't believe it. I went to camp for 3 years. So you're gonna get reality hit in the face, and it's good. It's good to know now, get ahead of it so that you're put on the path to be where you really should be. Tufts University Division III experience was awesome for me. Got to study abroad in Ireland, got to do other things. I wasn't on an athletic scholarship. Division I and Division II schools offer athletic scholarships, as you probably know. Division III doesn't. I'm not saying everybody lets you study abroad, but there's advantages and disadvantages to both. And whether or not you're a scholarship level athlete, or not, you're in charge. So even if you could play at a scholarship level, ability, do you even want that? Right? So this, you really have to consider everything. The one goal that we use in our process, and it's awesome that the coaches are here because I'm not going to speak for them. What we do is set you up, and what we're going to talk about tonight, you can do it on your own, set yourself up for success to get to have college coaches give you the direct feedback. Do not rely on a third party for an evaluation. You can, but they could be wrong. I told one of my kids years and years ago that I thought she was Division III, NESCAC level kid, high academic. She went to a, AAU tournament, hit 6'3". She came back and she said, "Coach, I got a D1 scholarship. You were wrong." I was like, oh my God. And I have a good pulse of the women's basketball world. So I was like, who am I to limit people, right? So get it from the horse's mouth, get it from the coaches. They're going to talk in a little bit. They're the ones that the whole point, they're your true north. They're the ones that you need to get that information from. But before you even reach out to them, you have to do a lot of homework so you don't waste your time or money or their time getting back to you. You have to do some homework. We'll talk about what you got to do. Proven approach, it's intentional, it's proactive. We keep talking about those. There's no shortcuts. It takes time and effort to succeed in this process. Not going to lie. Okay. You have to take control. You have to own it. And our process is distinct because we don't do it for you. We do it with you. We guide you. We tell you we're consultants. We tell you what you need to do. We know what these coaches want to hear, but you have to hear it from them. I'm not going to tell you where you could play. They have to tell you, right? So do not dip. There's 4 overall fits that you have to always keep in play in order to be successful in this process as a student athlete, in my opinion. And you can have a different opinion if you want the ball to rule the process. That is okay, but I have seen disaster with that approach. I'll be honest with you, because you could get hurt, the coach could leave. You can't control the sports piece as much as you can control your academic, your social fit, and the financial fit. Okay, so just know you got to take care of those first. We're going to talk about how. Nothing of significance was ever achieved without hard work. You got to keep that attitude. 5 mistakes to avoid. We don't leave anything to chance when we work together with our kids. Maybe it's because of me. I'm a control freak. I don't know, but we try to control the controllables as much as we can. But we hear it all the time when kids come to us. They're like, "Oh, if I don't get an athletic scholarship, I'll just go play D3." And I laugh. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? It is so hard to play even at the Division III non-scholarship level. It really is." And we're going to talk about the odds, and coaches will be chiming in on that. But just know that you have to apply the principles that we're going to talk about right now to all levels: Division I, Division II, Division III, JUCO, NAIA, all levels. You need to give attention to any school that fits you academically, socially, athletically, that you have targeted, regardless of level, because you don't know where it's going to go. And you want to be able to have options to pivot in case you can't play at your top choice school. You have to figure it out. Okay. So you have to have options. If you let the ball rule it, then you're putting too many eggs in one basket, in my opinion. And you get all messed up. So just cover yourself. I don't have much film yet, so I'm going to wait to start the process. Don't do that. There's a lot of homework. There's a lot of things that you can do. You might not want to reach out to a college coach just yet, but you have to get set up. You have to know if that school's good enough for you academically, socially, financially before you reach out. So there's a lot of things you can be doing now, 8th grade, 9th grade, that you can set yourself up before you reach out to a coach. But you don't have to wait till everything's perfectly fine. Like you can reach out to a coach if you're going to go play somewhere, even if you don't have film. You got to get the communication lines open with them so that you establish and cultivate relationships with them. And that's why it's intentional. You can't do this for 50 to 100 coaches. It's unrealistic. You got to get your good list of 15, 20 max. It's really hard to, cultivate relationships with 20 coaches at a time. 15 is a great number, but you got to do a lot of homework to get to that 15. Okay. More is better when it comes to emailing coaches. No, athletic recruiting agencies might tell you that. Flash it out to the whole Eastern Seaboard to see what sticks. That is such a waste of time. You're going to be emailing college coaches without vetting the schools to see if they even offer what you want to study, if it's a good social fit for you or not, or if your family can even attempt to afford it. Why would you reach out to a college coach of a school and ask them to dance, so to speak, if you don't even know if it's a good fit? So don't do it that way. Okay. More is not better in this process. Intentional, targeted is best. I got invited to a prospect clinic, so I must be their top recruit. Probably not. Coaches will probably speak to this a little bit more, but just know that college coaches are doing the same thing. They're casting wide nets to see who they think might be a good fit for them, right? So you have to make sure that you do all this layer of research. Just because you get invited doesn't mean that you're a top recruit. Okay, hate to burst a bubble, but let's just be reality right away. I verbally committed, so I'm all set. I hate this one. I hear this all the time. I'm all set. Coach says I'm all set. I verbally committed. Beginning of my junior year, I'm all done. Division I. My son plays baseball at Notre Dame. He committed the first day of junior year. And my husband's like, oh, good, he's all done. I'm like, no, he's not. He has to get in. And he had the new coach came in, and the coach didn't even really know the academic rigor of the school. And so it was like, oh, this was like scary. He's telling us to send test scores. And I'm like, I don't think we should. So like, there's a lot that goes on with that. You have to get accepted by the admissions office of each of the schools that are recruiting you, right? So if you verbally commit to a school, that's great, but you still have to get in, you know? So coach could leave, and just a lot of different things can happen. You can get hurt, so have a backup plan. Fundamentals of fit. Finding your college fit is like following a recipe. It's order and time matters. If steps are not completed in order and on time, you have less chance to get optimal results. You want to get the best information you can. It's what you put in is what you get out. Okay. So if the approach is haphazard, you're not going to get the information to flow correctly. All right. So all 4 fits needed in this dynamic process for your best chance of success: academic, social, financial. Athletic, yes, I'm putting it last. College coaches will thank me for this, because you'll be vetted out. You're going to essentially turn the recruiting process inside out if you follow one-on-one's approach, and it doesn't waste any time or money for either side. You must take action and be proactive in all 4 areas, and you are responsible for assembling a support team to help you. Look at the people that started tonight. You have your director of guidance, you have your AD here, awesome support team members. You have your high school coach, your club coach, you have your family, obviously. You're going to have the other people in your life, extended family. You might have your sports and nutritionist. I don't know. Whoever you like that loves you, that wants to be on your support team, invite them. And what I mean by that, do your homework, get your list, and share it. Okay. We're not going to go through this whole thing here, but this is all the homework that needs to be done before you reach out to college coaches. You have that academic fit. There's a lot to go there. The strategic, you have the course selection, which your guidance counselor will help you with. Standardized testing, that's a plan. Some schools are getting the test to be required back for admission. You got to pay attention to the rules. They're always moving with admissions. Letters of recommendation, extracurricular stuff, that's all important. But what I really want to talk about with academic fit is what kids do not spend enough time on, in my opinion, is the career research. Okay, so there's so much information out there. You have to have an idea. You don't have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life. Okay, you don't have to feel pressure on that, but you do have to identify the big buckets. You're not going to reach out to Coach Ryan at Babson and say, I want to be a nurse. Do your homework. Babson's all business. You wouldn't do that, right? So you need to know what it is that you want to do. Self-exploration. That is very, very important. I cannot stress that enough. It's a genesis of all college lists. Personality typing, what it is that fits you. That is very, very important. And it extends through the whole college search, even for the student athlete. Social fit, you could start that now. You could start that. I mean, you could be in 8th grade. I don't care how old you are. You go on a family vacation, you can start that now in terms of looking at size, location. Do I want to be in the city? You're not making any decisions now, but you got to start looking at where do I want to be? How big of a school do I want to be? Do I want to be close to an airport if I'm going far? All these things, a lot of things to consider. Okay. Financial fit. This is so important. College coaches need to know. They're not going to come. They can't ask you to talk about finance, especially D3, right? There's no financial thing going on there. There's no athletic scholarships for Division 3, right? So you, as a family, needs to get ahead of the process and understand the 3 kinds of financial aid. There's need-based aid. You have to know whether you qualify for need-based aid or not, because some schools are super generous with need-based aid. There's merit-based aid, which is academic scholarship money, leadership. Outside of sports and need-based aid, you could get a merit scholarship for doing well in school. So the better you do academically, the more money you might get, right? So that's super, super important. Not every school gives merit aid. Okay, so when you're constructing a list, you have to think of this. Okay, so if you don't, good example, my family, I went to Tufts, I was from Revere. They were very generous with need-based aid. Okay. My son was looking at Tufts, my Division III lacrosse guy, and he's like, "Why are you looking at Tufts?" I'm like, "Well, buddy, they don't give merit aid, and everybody at Tufts is, high level, A's student probably, right? And if you just miss the need-based aid mark as a family, you're going to be spending 82 grand a year. There's no merit aid, right? Awesome school, but maybe not the best awesome match for your family, what your expectations are financially, right? And vice versa. So, and then you have the athletic scholarships. Everyone's after that athletic scholarship. It's awesome. Go for it. Great. But do you know what you're getting into? My son at Notre Dame on baseball scholarship, getting in at 3 a.m. if they don't charter a plane from, wherever they played in the ACC the day before, going to class at 8:30 in the morning, not getting much sleep, having to take a test at 6 a.m. before he gets on the bus. So all of these things, I'm not poo-pooing it, but you have to really be committed for that, right? And if you get an athletic scholarship, there's so many more questions to ask. It depends on your sport, depends on how many athletic scholarships are awarded at that school. The NCAA only allows a certain amount. And institutionally, that school might not even fund all the scholarships the NCAA allows them to offer, right? So for baseball, for instance, it's a equivalency sport. It's not a head count sport. You got to know that. Whatever sport you play, figure that out, okay? Equivalency sport, it's the coach's discretion. A lot of pitchers get more money, right? With baseball, pitching is really important, right? So, if it's a head count sport like basketball or football, head count sport means you have an opportunity perhaps to get a full scholarship, pays for everything. So it depends on your sport. So my Division I student athlete on an athletic scholarship gets less money than my Division III student athlete who got a merit scholarship for academics, right? So know what you're getting into. There's more money in merit scholarships than there is in athletic scholarships. So just be aware of that. Once you get this list developed, after you do all this homework, you go down all these roads more solidly with the academic, social, financial fit, then you're ready. Then you are ready to turn the athletic recruiting process inside out. College coaches will love you for it because you are doing your homework. Okay, so we run kids through this process but you can't even do this part unless you have a good working list of good 15 to 20 schools you're targeting that you love, even if you can't play. The sport is the last overlay. Okay. So these things here are very important. Create and manage your online platform to share with college coaches. They're going to talk more about that, I'm sure, what they're looking for. But film is important, especially if you're going far away. So they're going to talk. I'm not going to take their thunder. They're going to talk more about that. Register with the NCAA Eligibility Center if you're looking at NCAA schools. That's very important. And maintain your status. There's a whole process you have to do in addition as a student athlete. Get a 10-digit ID number that you need to have and share with college coaches. You need to take core courses, not going down that whole rabbit hole, but just know that there's a lot more that needs to be done. And Miss Plunkett is on it. She knows it, but you have to make sure she knows and that your guidance counselor knows that you're trying to play a college sport because they have to help you and they have to send a transcript to the NCAA Eligibility Center. And there's a process for that. Making sure your classes are all approved, all that good stuff. Complete recruiting questionnaires. College coaches, a lot of them will ask you to do that. You should do that before you even reach out to them. If you're interested in their school, go find it. Go find the recruiting form online if there is one, and complete it and fill it out so the coach knows you're interested. Send personalized communication to each coach on your target list. Personalized is the operative word here. It's not one email to 50 coaches. That is so bad. You have to put the work in the gym, right? To get better, you have to know why you like that school. Academically, what do you want to study? Perhaps, right? What 2 or 3 majors are of interest? Socially, I keep sound like a broken record, but that personalized communication to each coach, it's going to stand out, you guys. It's going to stand out, and you have to send it, not your parent, not a recruiting service. You do it. You can get help, but it has to be from your email. You need to do it and own it. Strategically attend college-specific camps. Know which schools that you like the best, and know where you stand academically with that school. If it's a real reach school for you, find out what that coach can help support. So when my son was looking at schools, he wanted to look at Stanford. And my husband and I were like, we're not buying a plane ticket for you to go across the whole country and go to very expensive baseball camp. That's a great school. Obviously, it's Stanford, but let's find out if you meet the academic bar that a coach can help support. We found out what that was. Yeah, you just met that threshold. And we're like, all right, buddy, we're going to invest in it. And then it's all on you. You got to go prove it on the field if you're good enough. But why do that if you find out if you don't even meet that academic bar? You get C's. There's no way that coach can help you get into that school, even if you're the best player they've ever seen. So what's the point of spending the money, going to that camp, getting that coach excited? You didn't do your homework academically to know if you're even in reach, right? Share your target list with your chosen support team. Share it with your support team. We can't stress this enough. Your high school coach wants to help you. Your club coach, they want to help you. They have a lot of kids. You can't, kids come to us all the time like, oh, my club coach said they were going to help and they're not doing anything to help with the recruiting process. The first thing we say is, well, what have you done to help yourself? Do you have a list to give them? They're like, I don't know. No, don't let other people do this for you. You need to control it, okay? Have them help you after. They're going to want to help call coaches after they know that you've done some homework. Research level of play and the recruiting needs. I loved it when I was coaching at Reading. I would take my students to an SCAC game, a women's basketball game, and have them be like, their jaws drop. I'm like, oh my gosh, Bowdoin is so good. I can't believe this is Division III. You got to get out there and see what's out there. And you have to assess where you think you can play realistically, right? It's not up to you, but you at least have to know what it's about. Schedule college visits. That's a no-brainer. And then when you get into it with the college coach, if they like you back, and coaches will speak in a minute, you can talk about official visits and all that good stuff, but you have to be invited and you only get a certain amount depending on all this, the division level. So there's all these rules. You don't have to know every rule, but you do need to know enough to navigate this effectively. Obtaining honest feedback from college coaches to help adjust your target list. That is your true north. I can't stress that enough. College coaches are really where it's at. You got a skills coach that's asking to keep paying you to come for skills, and they're fluffing you up saying, I'm going to make you D1. I'm going to make you D1. Yeah, that sounds great, but it's not up to them. They're not taking your transcript and helping support you in the admissions process. Get it from the college coaches of the schools that you think are the best fit for you. All right, 5 stages of mindset. We're almost done. The Imagine Dream stage. This is great. You should all student athletes should go through all of these 5 stages of mindset. Okay. The first one is fun early on. Yeah. Let's think about what it is, where I want to be. I imagine going to college, being in a big school, painting my face, going to the football game, whatever it is. This is a great stage to start early, and it's good for the social parameters. Get those down. Distance, size, location. You can start that now, even if you're young. Okay. And then you go into the introspection research stage. This is super important. You have to be self-aware. You have to do the self-introspection to know, what's my personality type? What makes me cool? What are my drivers? What am I naturally good at? What should I probably study in college? That is so important. That's such a great, helpful tool to help you make your list. Okay. So don't skimp on that stage. Get some career counseling, get some personality assessment done. Do that stage. It's going to help a lot. And give you confidence when you talk to a college coach and they say, that first thing they ask you is, why are you interested in our school? You're gonna have some reasons. Well, you're gonna know what you might want to study and why you like that school socially. Then we get into the reality fact filtering stage. Everyone hates this stage, but you have to do it. You have to be vulnerable. You have to put yourself out there. You are competitors. You play your sport. You have to get that mindset, that growth mindset, and use it here. Okay. Fact filtering stage means you have to look at your transcript. You have to look, what is your GPA? Where is in relation? Is this school such a reach that's a waste of time, or is it too easy? Whatever it is, you have to filter it for academic, athletic. You're going to get some feedback from coaches. You have to be ready. You have to be ready to adjust, right? And then financial too. This is where parents, please listen. You need to be upfront with your student athlete. I don't want to say la la la, but it's hard. It's hard. I'm there. I know you want your kid to have dream and get everything they want, but this is so important. You have to be responsible. You don't want them to be, having to deal with a lot of debt when they leave school because you didn't think through the financial piece. So important to get ahead of that, because if a college coach of a Division III high academic school perhaps asks you to commit or asks you to apply early decision, which is definite, you have to go to that school if you get in. Don't get that far down the road, have your kid love the school, have the coach love you back, and then say, oh, we can't afford it. Get ahead of it. There's resources that we help our students with to know that. Then there's a synthesize and pivot stage. You have to be ready. That's why we love when we help kids with lists, we don't filter for the athletic piece. We don't do the athletic overlay. We don't do the athletic evaluation. We leave it up to the college coaches because that you need to have Division I, Division II, Division III, and club sports too. Okay. We can't guarantee if you're going to play your sport the next level. There's a lot of athletic recruiting strategy coaches out there, agencies that say, oh, we guarantee placement. Whoever guarantees you placement, it's not up to them. If they do, then they're going to be dipping in other areas that you should never be dipping in, sending you to a school that doesn't fit you academically or socially doesn't fit just to get you to play. It's not that important. Okay. You're going to play your sport. You're just going to have that mindset to say, I don't know what level I'm going to play. I'm going to do the best I can and put it out there, but that's not in my control. I'm just going to overlay that fit. Right. So you have to pivot. The final decision-making stage, obviously, don't let any of the forfeits fall. Okay. So use your sport as leverage to get to the best school that fits you in the other three areas. All right. You have to start this process earlier. There's more for you to have to do as a student athlete. So you have to accelerate this. Okay. It's never too early to start. You need a strategic plan in place to take the guesswork out of it so that you have confidence and you're in control and strategically going after the schools that you like. Allow yourself to experience all those 5 stages we just talked about and trust in the steps that athletic recruiting formula. There's no it's nothing special. It's just the order of doing it. You know, if you have the sport rule it, then it gets really difficult. Make a roadmap for yourself, put the work in and be ready to get the results and adjust accordingly. And finding your best match takes effort, but you're worth it. All right. And you need to own it. All right. There's things that we can do. I'll be in touch with you later, but we have boot camps. We have diagnostic to help figure out where you're at. It's not much money for the value you're going to get. And we have, other services too, but this is not a sales pitch, but just so you know that we help people in all different stages. All right. So we're all going to take questions. I'm going to stop this here, but thank you for listening. And I'm leaving it right up to the college coaches to take you from there. So hopefully if you do this approach, then you'll be ready to pivot once you get the feedback from these college coaches.
Great. Thank you, Kim. One of the other things I want to add to the to-do list for those people who may be student athletes is to make sure that as soon as you've decided that you want to play sports at the post-secondary level, is to let your school counselor know that. There are academic requirements, there's sort of planning processes, there's applying, getting your application into the NCAA. There's a lot of steps that you need to take, and your school counselor is happy to support you in that if they know you're a student athlete or you hope to be a student athlete, particularly around course selection. So please make sure that you identify yourself to your school counselor, because even if they know you're on a team at the high school level, they don't necessarily assume that you're going to look to play at the post-secondary level. So that's a really important person to clue in right away is your school counselor, so that they can do their best to guide you academically and on the post-secondary piece of it. So now I'm going to turn it over to the coaches. Ryan, why don't you ask the first 2 questions since they came the most asked to you? We're gonna pose 2 questions and ask each of our coaches to respond to them, and then we're going to give them each some time to just kind of speak about their experience, their recommendations, whether it's at their university or college, or just sort of food for thought for you to consider based on sort of what you've heard tonight. So Ryan, I'll let you go with the first 2 questions.
Thanks, Dana, and thank you, Kim. Again, Kim's presentation is great. I appreciate the honesty in a lot of that part of those presentations, because the reality is not everybody who plays high school sports will go on to play college sports, and not everybody that thinks they want to play sports in college is even the right fit for them, right? I think everyone has aspirations, and it's important to talk about those 5 stages of your mindset, right? Everybody wants to play in college. Everybody wants to play in the NBA, the NFL, and then you kind of get older and you realize it's not a right fit. But I feel like there's always a part where there's some steps that are skipped and players go right to college coaches and ask a few questions. And I want to pose a question to the 4 coaches, 3 coaches and the athletic director we have here. What questions do you get asked most often that you wish was answered at the high school level or through a school counselor or through myself? If anybody wants to touch on that.
Jim, do you want to start? Put you on the spot first.
I'm giving it some thought. I get a lot of questions that are asked. Probably the kids will ask, what a typical the commitment level is, because the differences of 3 to 2 to 1, they want to know what their student athlete experience is going to be like. I don't know if that can be answered at the high school level, but I always just tell them, as you go up, it's just more time. It's more time. Obviously the level of play is bigger, faster, stronger as you go up, but definitely there's more time commitment because there's different rules at each level. And some kids will be looking at schools in different divisions, whether it's 1 or 2 or Division 3. They had different, especially in the off seasons. There's a lot more off season, more year round mode in Division 1 and Division 2 than and it's a lot more restrictive in Division 3. So I kind of talk them through, what the typical, for us, we're a fall sport, what the fall season will look like from coming in the middle of August or early August through November. And then they go to live a life as a college student, but there's still off-season commitments, whether it's strength and conditioning, whatever your program has set forth. And then when you come back in the spring semester, we were a school that was in Division 2, which was regulated. We had 45-day windows at points, and you wouldn't get together till mid-February or even March and spring break. But now, for the last 2 years, we moved up to Division 1 2 years ago. We're training in January now. So these kids are training year round. It's not every day. It's not the same commitment as the season. It's still regulated by hours, but and I think these kids are coming in from the AAU and the level where they're used to playing year round. And some kids want to play more than the rules allowed. And that's important for, if you're looking at a Division 3 school and you're a kid that wants to play every day, you're not going to get that opportunity in the off season. And I've lived that in my own house, and my own child explaining, hey, if you want to play, different schools will give you different opportunities based on what the rules are. And that's a good perspective for each kid to know.
Good to consider. Thank you, Jim. Adam.
Yeah, no, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me, guys. I think the big thing for me is I run into a lot of not only just student athletes, but a lot of families who, I mean, like Kim's platform. I think it's a great tool to have, because I'm pretty confident maybe 75 to 80% of families coming out of the high school level are unaware of the college process, whether it's the onboarding process, the application process, even just relationship building with coaches. Sometimes, you could have a relationship with a coach for, 1 or 2 months and things are progressing pretty quickly. But there's also often times where, you could have to develop a relationship over a year and a half with a college coach for them to kind of make that decision, and also for you to make that decision at the same time. But for me, it's just the transparency in the college process, recruiting process, especially, that I think is not really touched on much when it comes to, and again, I can only speak for the soccer world. You're just starting to kind of see club teams and just start to talk about the college process, but I don't think it's discussed enough, where I think a lot of families and student athletes think, it's this whole Disney kind of, oh, you're going to get scouted while you're playing at the field with your little brother, and all of a sudden it's this big, glorified great thing, which it can be, but oftentimes it's really not that glamorous. You were kind of found on a whim. There's a lot of time that goes into the process, especially the recruiting process, which I don't think many people are aware of.
Thank you, Adam. Julie.
Yeah, I would say, the biggest thing that I always go back to in terms of meeting with families is I like when kids come prepared, and coming in and not asking things that you can find on the website. So, I know it's a little bit more gray in terms of, are your seniors actually graduating with the extra COVID year? But I think there are certain elements that if you do your homework, and I do get kids that want physical therapy and nursing, so I will throw that out. And I just delete it. I actually don't even respond to them because I don't have time. But I think, again, it goes back to that attention to detail. And I can tell through the questions that I get whether or not they've done their homework prior to getting here. And I think, again, I think the questions that we generally do get, are program specific in terms of what our team culture is like, what the day in the life looks like, what opportunities we have in the spring. Division 3 is different in terms of our spring. Now the NCAA changed it to 24 opportunities in your non-traditional season with 1 day of competition. So very different from the Division 1 and 2 models. But it also provides an opportunity where, our student athletes, I have 6 kids studying abroad right now. And I think the development of them as people is just as important as field hockey players. And so for them, being abroad right now is the right place for them instead of, out on the field with me in February. But I think, again, going back to the questions, I think it's coming up with a list, really sitting down, thinking about the things that you do care about, and it's your opportunity to be able to sit and get as much as you can out of that program. I also think it's getting a little bit easier in the sense that there is so many resources on social media for different tips and different, people you can follow. And, in our world, there's a company called The Lineup, and they have a whole Instagram post of here's the top 10 questions to ask a coach when you meet with them, so I hate to say it, it's definitely getting a little easier. So the stakes are a little higher when you sit in my office, because I want to know that you've done the work before you got here. So I think that's really the focus that we have when we meet with recruits and families here.
Thank you. Vaughn.
I don't do the hard work like all those three coaches do. I think Ken gave a very detailed layout of things of what's missing, and I think it's education. I speak to a lot of parents as athletic director. I've been at the Division I level and now at Division II/Division I hockey at Bentley, and I think as much as technology and we have and information, I think more people need to, you can go to ncaa.org and find out about different dates and recruiting calendars and the things that are necessary in the process. And, a lot of questions when we're in the room about how do I earn a scholarship? How do I earn money? And I think the awareness of the different levels and the percentage and what sport you are and really where you are going to have more athletic aid versus where you're not going to have athletic aid. So I think it's just awareness and education, as all have said, and I think Kim has said as well, just knowing and really, really, really trying to understand who you are as an athlete before you come, really understanding that school, their roster, what makes up their roster, what are they looking for, those type of things, so you can give yourself a bit of advantage. So education, come prepared, especially parents, but also making sure, like Kim said, do the work. You have to do the work. It's the best time, I think, in recruiting. If you talk 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and it goes through a coach, you do have more options and ways to get better or to be recruited or to build a brand. But the reality is, who are you? And having that reality of where you could fit versus where you want to fit sometimes is the challenge.
And I'll jump in. I appreciate that, Vaughn. I think Kim at times mentioned things that may sound negative, but they're not negative, right? Being realistic is not negative. And having second options or plan Bs or contingency plans is not negative, right? It's a reality. And I think we could all spend the next hour talking about stories of either colleagues, peers, teammates, coaches that went through this process themselves, or had students that went through this process and found themselves in a position that they didn't really want to be in because they focused on athletics first, right? Rich and I both have a friend that was recruited by Brad Stevens when he was a college coach. And it was like, again, that was his dreaming and imagining stage. And he goes to play for Brad Stevens. And in the middle of his recruiting period, Brad Stevens takes the Celtics job. And now he's playing for a different coach. And his whole outlook on how his college career changed because he focused so much on the coach that was there and the athletic program and forgot a lot of the other steps. And again, so it's not a negative. It's really an important piece of this planning process is looking at contingency plans and having that be number 4 on your list.
I just want to, I love the fact that we're all on the same page with this, and it does sound negative, but it really isn't. If you reframe it, and I'm talking to the audience here because all of us are on the same page, it's really good to know this now. It costs money to go to college. You're going there ultimately to get a degree to qualify you to do something for the rest of your life. Very slim, if any, chance you're ever going to play your sport beyond college. So I know our society is always like, the sport's the sport, you get on that hamster wheel and everyone's going to camps and doing it. You're doing it because everyone else is doing it, right? And that's just what our society is doing. The sport has become too big. And if you can separate the sport from yourself, like all of us are saying, it's going to be a much more healthy approach to this process, and you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to look at your sport as enhancing your college experience, not ruling it. And you're going to be happy. You know, we had a kid that I was so proud of, went through this process with us, and we don't care where kids go. We care, and we care so much that we don't care if they go on the scholarship, if they get the roster spot, because we want them to be happy. He got a scholarship, and he decided, I knew he wasn't going to take it because he was describing his social parameters. Big school down south, paint my face, go to the football games. He's like, are you guys going to be upset if I go to Clemson and play club sports instead? I go, I am so proud of you. No, that's what you want to do. And that's your driver. Those 4 fits we talked about, you don't know which one's going to come to the forefront and prioritize itself for you until you get in it, right? Don't let the sport mask it. Don't let that get in the way of listening to your inner core, because you can always play. You just don't know what level, right? So I could talk forever about this. I'll stop talking.
Ryan, we'll have you do the next round of questions. Next round for the question.
I think the second question that I get asked a lot, I think a lot of the coaches answered already, is what do you wish college athletes or high school athletes knew before they started reaching out? Julie touched on a little bit about doing your homework. It's so important. It's the same thing in high school, and it's the same thing for classes and everything else. If you go unprepared, it's pretty easily, you can notice it pretty easily. And there are so many students looking to play at the next level that college coaches don't have time to sort through all these students, right? And if you stand out, and if you're personalized, and if you do your homework, coaches will take the time because they know you took the time. So not a question there. I'm just kind of reiterating what a lot of the coaches here said. But I'll throw it back to any coaches again. If there's anything else you wish that student athletes knew when they came to at this point, if anybody has anything to add, Coach.
I do. I just want to, like, I thought the presentation was great. I've done a lot of these, and Kim, I thought you kind of covered a lot of the stuff that usually gets skipped over. But the biggest thing is, one of the things you mentioned about don't do too many emails, and your first point of contact is a big part of the process, but don't assume the coach is getting 5 emails a day. And if he doesn't get back to you in 2 days, you email him again. And then I've had kids email me twice in one day, and I get 100 emails a day during, a week of a tournament. And it takes days, if not weeks, especially during the season, to get back in touch. And be very careful in that first email. First and foremost, I tell all the parents, have your child send the email. Do not ever send the email for your child. It's a bad first impression. Your child has to establish a relationship with the coach and learn to communicate and advocate for themselves. And it's hard. You want to write it for them and have them send it, but you're just crippling them, and you're hurting the process. I've had stories. I can tell when the parents write the emails, when they come in my office and they can't answer any of the questions that I talk about that were in the emails, and I can tell that the parent wrote the email and they're just kind of not dialed in. So keep the emails brief. You don't have to write a book and talk about you won the 6th grade state championship, because nobody cares. You bet. Do your research on the major, what your GPA is, what you want to study at the school, and then I play for this team and I'm playing at this tournament, because the coach wants to know what your grades are first and foremost, what you're looking to study, and when can they see you play. And that time frame is different per sport and per gender. And one of the things I like to bring up is a fall sports calendar is a lot different than a spring sports coach, because a spring sport coach, they're doing it hot and heavy the summer after your junior year, because they don't get the benefit of spring of senior year. Kids have already chosen their colleges and applied by then. But a fall sport coach, which I've lived for 22 years, especially on the male side, males are still growing even into college. And I had a daughter, and she played high school soccer. She stopped growing her freshman year, and girls start getting recruited sophomore year. Well, my son is now a 6'2" senior who sprouted after his sophomore year and is still growing and will still grow into his college year. So as a college coach, I'm waiting, as a soccer coach, I'm waiting as long as I can. And we're watching kids fall of junior year, and kids email me and they panic. Oh, I haven't heard from coach. He hasn't made me an offer. And my neighbor, she committed 6 months ago. Well, that's because their calendar, especially even in women's soccer alone, is 6 months ahead of the male side. And that's simply because of they're on a different calendar, a trickle down effect for money on some sports. and season. So just don't judge yourself by what your friends are doing. Just establish a relationship with the coach, be brief, proofread. Vaughn will love this. I get a lot of emails. Dear Coach Crompton, I really want to study business at Stonehill. Well, Coach Crompton's the Bentley coach, a friend and a former rival. And normally I delete those emails, but I might want to keep it because back when we were rivals. But you can tell that they've just emailed 12 coaches separately. Take your time and do it right. And if the coach will invite you to an ID clinic, as Kim mentioned, it doesn't mean that you're the top recruit, but they're just trying to see you play. And there's a lot of money-making clinics out there that you could go to, and some are offered by third party. Do your homework there. So if there's 150 kids there, it's really hard to get an honest assessment. A lot of schools, like I do myself, I limit them to 28 to 32 players. That's where you can make a true evaluation. And if it's a school you're really interested, it's a great opportunity. They're usually short money. You get to see the school, meet the coach, maybe meet some players, and play all in one day. So choose wisely in that department, and don't look at it as look at it as a positive opportunity, because hundreds, 400, 500, 600 kids will email a coach. They can't get out and see everybody on a Saturday afternoon or even in one weekend. So do your best. If you have your top 7 schools, really try to visit the school, do a tour, see if you can meet the coach, go to one of those clinics, and just be self-aware, as the research you said there. But the biggest pitfalls I see is people panicking about the timeline and judging themselves on their peers, and not doing their own emails. It's time for the kids to grow up, and parents get involved when it comes to the financial piece. But before that, it should be team player and coach.
And about that personalization piece, the coaches will really appreciate it. I know the three coaches we have here, if a player really does their homework and reaches out and says, hey, I noticed you got 4 goaltenders or goalkeepers on your roster. I'm a goalkeeper. None of them are graduating next year. Like, is this even worth the conversation? Like, again, that sort of kind of personalization, the coach might be real honest. You get back and say, I'm just not recruiting goaltenders right now. And then you can move on, right? So like those sort of things will not just help a college coach, but will help you in that process.
I'll just add to what Jim was saying with the on-campus clinics and visiting. I think the other benefit of that as well is figuring out what you don't want. I think as much as you're trying to find what you want, you might go to a clinic for us and meet the team and do the Q&A and walk around and you're like, get me out of here. Fine, that's great. That's good for both of us, right? I think the bottom line is, you're going to come, and we have one, next month, and we have 50 kids signed up. I am not recruiting 50 kids for, the following year. So for us, we like it because we're going to get to see our top players play against each other. So it's like, yeah, I saw her at that a little bit, but it was hard to tell. Now I get to see them play against each other, and that's gonna shorten that list real fast. And for me, I'm very transparent about that because I want those 50 kids to all play college field hockey if they can. And I know they're not going to all play for me, but I'm willing to, after that, really tailor that list down and tell people, you know what, you're not on that top tier list for me. So continue your search, and I would encourage you to look elsewhere. And again, it's hard news, but it's great news, right? And on the flip side, again, you could walk away and be like, not for me. You need to do that. And you can only do it by being on those schools' campuses. So I think, once you can get that list really tailored down, your money is better well spent if you can get on the campuses in front of the teams, kind of get a feel for the coaches, the players, the interactions, the culture, and that's going to give you the best sense of it. And then the only other thing that drives me crazy is when recruits will send me an email like the night before. They're like, hey, I'm going to be there tomorrow at 11. It's like, what do you think I do all day, right? We're busy. We have a lot of stuff on our plate, and different schools and different divisions. A lot of us wear a lot of different hats. Once you're going to visit, make sure you ask and see if they have availability. We had spring break last week. I had at least 7 kids that were like, I'm here. Are you around? It's like, no. We take vacation too. So, I think that's just another really important piece, is being organized with your visits so that you're getting the most out of that. But also knowing that coaches have meetings and can't just drop their schedule for you to pop in on a random Tuesday.
I think, Julie, you're bringing up a good point in that you know, you all are looking to build your teams and, you know, be a good consumer of the athletes you see in front of you. And from a family and student perspective, they need to be their own good consumer about what does this program and this coach and these other teammates have to offer me, as well as the college and the university. So it really goes both ways, that you know, you as the student are a consumer of looking into where's the best fit for me, and the college coaches are looking at what's the best fit to continue to build my team and build a successful team. And hopefully there's some overlap, but the goal is to find that overlap if you want to be a student athlete. Adam and Vaughn, do you have anything to add?
I would just reiterate that, a little bit of the communication piece and the on visit, communicating while you're on visit. It's really important for the student athletes to have the conversation. I've met with countless families where, you know, either mom or dad are really trying to lead the conversation, where, you know, we understand that you want what's best for your son or daughter, and chances are you're also footing the bill, or at least a large majority of it too as well. So that's an important piece. But for us to have the conversation with the student athletes, really get to know them early on, because we're the one that we're going to be working with for the next 4 years. So making sure that the student athlete is really kind of doing the talking, and making sure that we're getting to know the student athlete that way. Not, I mean, it's important to know their families as well. It's a big part of the piece, but really just establishing that relationship with the head coach and the players is a priority.
Yeah, I'll just add this a little bit. Jim, did you send that player to Crompton, to Bentley? No, I'm only kidding.
I
But
scored
anyway,
against you.
I think branding is very important, and I think this is one of these life skills that we can teach our young people about, carrying a conversation, communicating their thoughts, communicating their goals, their vision. I think this is, as a parent, we can use this time to really help them understand how to articulate that. They have to have the connectivity to keep it real with coaches and administrators, and every time they get on campus, a missions director. All these things are important as they head into college. That's number one. The second is, I think Julie kind of said it, it's about getting to the truth. And I think this is the process in which, this is a great process. This is an unbelievable process. The college admissions process, why some might think stressful, it is about the process, and you're trying to eliminate the not fit. And you have to be as bold as, I would say, Kim has said, to say, can I play? Eventually you have to say, can I play here? Or am I worthy? I mean, and I think I would say these three coaches are going to say, well, I don't think so. You're not the fit for my program. So now you can continue on. So I think as you need to be prepared to deal with truth, so you can then process of elimination of where you're going to spend your time. If you're saying, I'm going to go to Babson to play field hockey, you haven't asked that question. Julie probably doesn't have you on that top list. And now there's 3 other schools. You spent your time at Babson instead of spending your time somewhere else to get that opportunity that you might be the fit. So I think it's the truth. And I think coaches are going to give you the truth, okay? Because there is a lot of magnitude of numbers of which they see. And so they're trying to have that finite number so they can deal and they can make decisions of who's going to be on the roster, who is the fit for their roster as much as anybody. So getting to the truth, I think, is another point that is very important.
One other thing I'll add quickly is I think the importance of social media and how you present yourself as well is something that we absolutely really do our research on, and kind of, you know, I think you can learn a lot from different programs and kind of get a sense of them through social media. So there's certainly a lot of benefits to it, being able to, you know, promote yourself and put clips on there. But I think there's certainly been, we have passed on recruits because of their social media accounts and what we're seeing, because it's not something we want to get involved with. If that's what they're putting out there for the public, it's gonna, you know, when you become a college student athlete, you're going to represent something far greater than yourself. And so if this is how you handle yourself, coaches are going to be less likely to take risks on that. So, you know, I think some of you might be sitting there panicking a little bit, but it's time to clean up some of those accounts, because I think there are a lot of opportunities to showcase yourself, but you got to really ask kind of, what do you want that image to look like? And you know, on the flip side, understand that we are absolutely looking at that, and we are judging people by what we're seeing. So.
Julie, great point, but I got to touch on that. That goes for the parents too. I can tell you multiple stories of getting on a plane and going down to the Jefferson Cup or a tournament in Florida, and I see the parents going crazy on the sidelines, yelling at the ref, yelling at the players and the team. And one infamous story, I walked right up to the coach during the game and I said, "Could you tell me which parent that is?" And it was the parent of the kid that emailed me to come watch him play. And I immediately just crossed them off my list and walked to the other field, because that was a red flag from the beginning. And I've seen other kids come and they're the kid, there's always fouls during the game and they're flipping off the referee behind the back. Character is big, and we're watching everything from the family character in the stands, because those are gonna be our fans for 4 years, and I'm telling you right now, we're watching both, so it's always good for the parents to recognize that.
Yeah, just one more thought, just to piggyback on Julie's. The first thing that we do, at least at Framingham, and I know countless of coaches who do it, the first thing that we do is try to look at everybody up on their social media accounts, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, what's the big ones now, TikTok. We kind of hit those 4 major platforms, and really, in reality, before we even respond to your email, that's the first thing that we do. So that's a big piece.
And we've also seen in the past college admissions pulled, athlete or not, pulled because of students' social media presence in accepted students' Facebook pages and things like that. So, it is very much tracked at the post-secondary level, whether it's through the athletic process or simply the admissions process too. I want to remind families that as we sort of come to our close, if they have questions, so please post them in the chat. And while we sort of pause to give people an opportunity to do that, we have Rich Gardveri, our assistant AD at Needham, with us as well. And Rich Gard, I want to give you an opportunity, not to put you on the spot, but if there's anything you want to contribute, either from your own experience or from being relatively new to Needham but not new to college sports, if there's anything you want to offer to this evening.
No, thank you for doing this. The coaches have been great, and Kim's presentation has been great. Just myself going through the recruiting process 12 years ago, not that long ago. This is all this right here is things I wish I knew and I had heard. I think it obviously would have saved me a lot of time, my family a lot of time, a lot of other schools and coaches a lot of time. So that transparency, and Vaughn mentioned it, just that truth, is a big key in this process. And I tell students all the time, like, I'm gonna be truthful with you. Coaches are gonna be truthful with you. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had aspirations of playing soccer at Stonehill, but I forget who the coach was at the time and told me I wasn't good enough. So
You're doing all right now.
We're glad to have them. Kim, any last thought from you?
I just want to reiterate the fact that if you go through this process with that open mind, the growth mindset that we keep talking about, and being able to pivot and not being afraid to get the real truth, which you should, because you deserve to have that, you're the ultimate decision maker. The student athlete, even if you can play at multiple schools, you're still the one making the final decision. So just because you can play and a coach asks you and is showing interest doesn't mean you have to go there. You wouldn't reach out unless you were honestly interested, but just know that, explore all of your options and make an informed decision. But until you get in this process, you really don't know what's going to rear its head to be like, oh, that's my driver. Oh, I didn't realize it was going to be that. So just be open and listen and be true to yourself, and you'll have fun.
Any of our coaches want to add a final thought? Okay. Ryan or Rich Card?
So just one thing that I'm thinking about, and it was mentioned, the biggest factor for me choosing a school was not even about athletics, was not about soccer. I was a 4-year member of the Curry College men's soccer team. The biggest factor for me was the fact that Curry College had a small teacher to student ratio. like I knew for myself that I needed to be at a school with small classes that I was getting that one-on-one attention from the teacher. Um, if a school didn't have that, I was not even looking. So I think that's just one of the things that, these coaches and Vaughn and Kim had mentioned is doing that homework and knowing what you want before you reach out to the schools and part of your recruiting process.
Ryan?
My final point would be to reiterate Kim's message just recently, and also I think Jim mentioned it earlier. Coach Reddish mentioned it, is that don't judge yourself against others, or don't make a decision for others, right? You are the decision maker, as Kim just said. We worked with a student athlete last year at my prior district that had two offers on the table. One was a full ride to UMass Lowell, and one was a essential full ride to Northeastern to play a sport. And everybody's trying to figure out which option he was going to take. And he decided to play two sports at Williams College. And everybody couldn't understand how he didn't take a full scholarship, a full ride to play a sport. And he wanted to go play two sports at an SCAC, like the mini Ivy League, right? And it's his decision. Don't make decisions based on what your friends think, or college coaches think, or what college coaches tell you. You can have great offers on the table. You can play it. If you can play at a level, great. You're the decision maker, and you don't have to go to these schools just because you get in or you can play.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, I want to remind families that in addition to sort of the college athletic process, there's a whole sort of post-secondary piece of the world, which your school counselors at the high school are going to marshal you through. We have parent evenings as well as supports for your students individually and in small groups to help navigate that piece as well. So, for the student athlete, there's sort of a twofold process. But please, again, as I said earlier this evening, make sure that your counselor knows that you want to play or you want to look towards playing sports at the post-secondary level so that we can support you in that process. I want to thank Kim Pinney from One-on-One Consulting, as well as Jim Reddish, Adam Garber, Julie Ryan, and Vaughn Williams for joining us this evening to help families understand sort of the recruiting process at the post-secondary level. If you have friends who are not able to join us tonight, again, this has been recorded, so I will have it posted on the school counseling webpage. Reach out if you have any questions. Please reach out to your school counselor. Obviously, Ryan and Rich Carter are with us as well. So if you have questions of them as we kind of support your students, again, please feel free to find us, and obviously the folks on the screen as well. So thank you again for your words of wisdom and your perspective on this evening. And we want to thank those of you who joined us this evening for doing so. And we will be in touch. So have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Take care.